Welcome to Basically a Therapist, but without the degree. I'm Lauren Larson, and we're doing things a little differently today. I wanted to bring on my husband for a couple of different reasons, but for episode 24, I have been struggling with content, and so I wanted to just have my husband on because this is a conversation that I've wanted to have for a long time anyways. And so I thought that this would be a really great time to do that. So whenever you're struggling with content, just bring your spouse on and it should be pretty good content.
It's about time. It's about time.
So we're going to dive into it. There's no agenda. I don't have a script. I don't have an agenda. I don't have questions. So we're just going to kind of
On the fly.
Yeah, go on the fly, just free ball it and see what happens. But I specifically wanted to talk about like our story, how we met, and really like the nitty gritty of our relationship before getting married, like that led us to getting married.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we have a really unique story, and I love our story. I know I may be slightly biased, but I personally love our story. And so whenever I share it with other people, they say the same thing. And so I just feel like more than just our close circle, more than our family and friends need to know about our story. And so we're just going to dive in, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you want to kick it off or you want me to?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So
Maybe start from the beginning too, like before us, like where we came from.
what does that mean?
Like, I don't know, like
from birth?
no, not that far back.
Like where are we at?
No, I mean, we both were going through some things, and we had, both went through a divorce, and I had my battle scars and my doubts about remarrying or even getting in a relationship with somebody else again.
Yeah.
And I think I projected that onto you in the beginning. And then I also think that I was trying to fill voids and having fun. And
That was in episode 23 that we talked about filling voids.
I was definitely doing that, yeah.
Pluggy plug there.
But you don't have to go too far back. But
Well, I was going to.
Yeah.
But depending on like where you want to start, I was just going to say that like at the time of meeting Brian, I was separated from my husband at the time for about 9 months. Yeah, like 9 months. And I had gone to Alabama, which is where my family was living at the time, to go stay with them to kind of deal with getting ready to go through a divorce. So I wasn't in the process of divorce yet when I first met Brian. And so it feels weird saying your name so much. I'm
That's
not
okay.
used to calling him like Brian all the time. It's like honey or babe or some other words.
yeah, some other words.
Anyways.
Yeah.
And so I was separated, but like just really kind of going through that and getting close to God and hanging out with my family and just healing and getting prepared for the divorce process. And so, like I said, I was in Alabama. It was the Saturday. It was like 3 days before I was supposed to scheduled to come home. Like I was only going to be in Alabama for 1 month. That had been the plan since I left Vegas, was to just go be with my family for a month and then kind of see what happens after that. And that's exactly what happened. It was, I think, a month to the day. And so I was at home with my family, and we had a mutual friend at the time that texted a picture of me or of Brian to me, and then texted a picture of me to Brian. And when she texted me a picture of him, it was like this gorgeous, like shirtless picture. Like, obviously I'm going to say yes. And she was like, "This is my newly divorced friend." And I was like, wow, he is like super cute. Like I was interested. And I guess he can tell his side of the story, but he was also interested, obviously, because here we are 10 years later. And so, actually,
It was fun.
tell
It-
me your side of the story, because I don't know, I don't remember it. Like when she texted a picture of me to you,
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
what
I
happened?
immediately went to social media, obviously.
Yeah.
And I remember looking, I think I told you about this. She, she had a lot of these, she had this baby, younger girl in her pictures, like, and I thought she had a kid, honestly. And it was somebody that
Oh,
was,
yeah.
was
It was a friend's kid.
it was a friend's kid. And I just remember looking at it and I'm like, I'm thinking, oh, I'm a single dad. She's a single mom. Like, but, no, I mean, she was beautiful. And
No kids. I have no
yeah,
kids of my own.
so that when I found out she didn't have kids, I was like, okay, I don't know. Like, so it was weird, but
Even better.
I mean, I was attracted instantly when I saw her, her Facebook. God, I was doing Facebook a lot back then, which is weird.
I think we first connected on Instagram though.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, you're right.
Because
You're right.
I remember girls, guys do this too, but like when you're interested in a dude, like you start posting more or you like start posting yourself in certain situations. Like I know you guys are like feeling me right now. Like, and so I wasn't like, I wasn't like super active on social media, but like once I knew that he was looking, I was active and I was like posting pictures like church selfie with sister, like whatever, sisters who church together, like just totally like trying to catch his attention. It's so
Yeah.
cringy. Like, gosh, if you ever like go back in Facebook from like 10 years ago, it's just cringy. Anyways,
Yeah, we were kind of, I know that we were checking each other
we were
out.
stalking each other on social
yeah.
media, yes. And,
And
again,
then-
this was 2014, so this was 10 years ago.
Yeah. And then did I finally message you?
Yeah.
And you were like-
No, here's what happened. So on Facebook, he had finally sent out that friend request.
Finally.
Finally. And it was, so our mutual friend at the time, like texted us on a Saturday, and that's when we started stalking each other. And then he waited until Sunday
Stalking
evening.
sounds so terrible.
Like Sunday night is when he finally sent that friend request. And once I got it, I immediately like messaged him on Facebook and I was like, it's about time. And then,
That was like the official, like, all right, she's flirting.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah.
so we like messaged each other for 4 hours that night.
Yeah,
Like,
it was
we never
a-
got on the phone.
it was
we
a
never
lot.
talked. We never texted that first night. Like we just messaged back and forth on Facebook. Hard flirting, like hardcore flirting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, totally being obviously playful and dumb. And I was,
Which I think we still are.
yeah, we are. But
just not quite.
That was funny.
Yeah. So then, like I said, that was Saturday and Sunday. We're texting all day Monday, and I'm planning on coming back on Tuesday. Like that had been my plan. And we're talking or whatever, and I still remember leaving Alabama on Tuesday morning, like early.
Yeah.
And I was, oh wait, no, I'm fast forwarding too much. So Monday we were texting a lot, and I at the time still wanted kids of my own.
Mm-hmm.
And you had asked me like, do you still want kids? And I was like, yeah, I do. And you were like, that I can't give that to you.
Yeah.
You're like, I have kids that are older. Like I'm done. I'm out of
Yeah.
that phase. Would you be open to adopting? Which I still remember you asking that. And I was like, yeah, I'm totally open to adopting. But he, like, because I still wanted to have kids, like, he friend zoned me. It didn't work. So he friend zoned me hard. And he was like, yeah, well, maybe, like, maybe we'll meet each other whenever you come back to Vegas or whatever. But, like, yeah, I don't think this is going to work. And I was like, okay. I let him. I didn't try to bribe him. I didn't try to persuade him. I didn't try to do any of that. I was like,
No.
okay, cool. And then a whopping, 2 to 3 hours? 2 to 3 hours later, this man's messaging me, I can't stop thinking about you.
I didn't sound like that.
Duh.
I did not sound
Duh,
like
you
that.
can't stop thinking about me.
Yeah,
Duh.
and she didn't stop thinking about me either, so
No.
I know you didn't.
But
Yeah.
so
Someone had to initiate it.
Oh, whatever, bro. So
Oh,
we're
that's
texting all day
funny.
Monday again, Monday night. Tuesday rolls around. I'm getting ready to go back to go back to Vegas from Alabama. And I like say bye to my family, and they were kind of like, "Why is she in such a rush to get back home?" We had no plans to meet each other. Like still like
Yeah.
kind of friend zoned. He's like, "Well, maybe we could work out together
Yeah. Go hit
sometimes." I
the
was like,
gym.
"LOL."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Train
It's
you.
like, "Yeah, you could train me, buddy." So so I drive home from Alabama to Vegas by myself in 29 hours. I literally pulled over in a truck stop for 1 hour and slept
You're
and
lucky
then
you made
drove.
it home that night. You really are.
Yeah, I mean, I got there by like Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
And I remember like, I still remember like driving over the Hoover Dam Bridge and I was like, I'm home. I was so excited. And I remember like texting him and he was like, I was moving in with some friends and they weren't home and I couldn't get into the house because I didn't have a key yet and I needed a shower really badly. And he was like, you can like come to my house if you want. He wasn't home. He was working. And I was like, no, I'll just wait. And then I like move in with my roomies and we're like hanging out for a few hours. And then he texted me and he's like, I want to meet you. And I was like, okay, cool. Like when? And he's like, tonight. And I was like, okay, where? What time? And I got ready really quick. My roommates helped me get ready and I met him like at this bar restaurant that was like 5 minutes up the road from me. And we talked for a really long time in that bar, like a really long time.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a long night.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good night.
It was a good conversation.
You were
Yeah.
scared because he was sitting on the other side of the couch from me. Like
I wasn't
we weren't,
scared.
you were scared.
No, I was trying to like respect like the space and not trying to be
Okay.
all on top of you, you know?
Okay, bud. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, and so I was like, why are you sitting so far away? And then he like scooches over and then we just start making out hardcore. And that's how we started our relationship.
Hardcore. Yeah. That's how we started our relationship. Hardcore.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then, we started dating like immediately. Like we were pretty much exclusive, like from the get go.
Yeah.
We called off any other situationships that were going on, which there wasn't. And then like just really like dated and pursued each other. And
Yeah.
there was no intent to get married.
No.
Like we had never discussed marriage.
Right.
It had never come up for us because we were both like scared. And I knew that he was like, specifically he was scared because he had been married a couple of times before me and had been burned by those marriages.
Yeah, I mean that was the toughest part for me. I mean, if anybody's been through a divorce, you know how those can go, and those were they're traumatic, to say
Sure.
the least. So,
I mean, it makes sense.
so I was very, cautious and reserved, and wasn't eager to jump back into a relationship, and so it was definitely tough. Sure.
Yeah.
But
But like, did you ever like, even though we never talked about it, did you have marriage in mind with me or no?
no.
Cool. No. Sweet. So just to kind of
Like
give a little like,
in the very beginning.
no, I'm talking like just even before like we got married. Did you ever think about it?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm like
You're still at the beginning.
Still at the beginning.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, that was the last thing I was thinking about in the beginning. You know that, but yeah.
I mean, same.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we kind of jumped into a relationship pretty darn quickly.
Yeah.
I basically lived with you. Like I was there all the time. And then I officially moved in with him, I think in August of that year. So I met him in March of 2014 and we moved in together in like August. And yeah, we really were hot and heavy and really in love.
Yeah.
He had 2 kids from a previous marriage, and that is a topic for a whole other episode. Like,
Yeah.
we could totally dive into parenting slash step parenting, because that has been a journey as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just moved in with him, and yeah, we just kind of lived our lives. One thing that I will say is that and I don't recommend this, but we started sleeping together immediately at the very beginning of our relationship. Like, that was something that our entire relationship was based on, you know? And it was hard. It was hard when, and we'll get into it in a little bit, but it was
Yeah.
hard when things came up because we never really dealt with that kind of stuff. Like, we just kind of, like, sex can be a Band-Aid in a relationship. And I think that you used that analogy before. Like, it's a really good analogy. Like, it's
Yeah,
a
it's not,
Band-Aid.
yeah, I mean, not even a Band-Aid. I mean, well, Band-Aid, but also my analogy is sex is like, you know, it's a hit, it's a drug. You know, you could have the toughest time, and, you know, life can be hard with your, you know, with your partner, and like things could not be good, but as soon as you have sex, it's like you forget about everything.
Just masks a lot
It
of
just
stuff.
masks it, and it's just like, again, it's like alcohol. It's like a drug, and it can satisfy you, and it can basically prolong, like, you know, being hurt or being upset, because you just carry that into the next day. So
For
it's easy to deal with the small things when there's sex involved, especially when it's hot and heavy, and, you know,
Yeah.
electric, and you're having fun.
Yeah.
It can mask a lot. So
For sure. So, yeah, I mean, there were things that we went through in our relationship that we had a good relationship, and there were things that we talked about, and I think that we handled maturely. Like, it's not like we had zero emotional maturity in our relationship,
yeah,
but there was definitely, like, you just don't really, I don't even know if I can explain it. So let me just kind of dive into the rest of our relationship first, so that way maybe it can, like, come up for me. But so, you know, we had been dating for a year and a half at this point, and you had gone to, like, a men's breakfast,
I did. Yeah.
and there was
At the
something,
crossing, yeah.
yeah, and there was something that was said that did something in you,
Yeah.
and you don't remember the message.
I mean, yeah, it was a while back, but,
I know, sometimes they're impactful though.
yeah, it was, I don't remember exactly, but I mean, to make a long story short, I think that my mindset at the time, again, because I had trauma from my past divorces, that I wanted to make sure that I was financially okay if there was a divorce to happen again, and I wanted to protect my finances if I was to get married again,
Yeah.
because it was painful before. So, you know, I think that was my mindset, like, you know, prenup, like, or,
Yeah.
you know, make sure there's agreements in the beginning. And I think that message, I think the message was about, essentially, if you're going into a relationship looking to fail, or you're looking for a backup plan,
You're, like, prepping
you're prepping for a divorce,
Yeah,
basically.
before you even
You're
get
going
married.
into it before you even get married. You're prepping for a divorce, and you're not all in.
Yeah.
You're not all in. At the end of the day, you're not all in. You're halfway, and you're protecting your assets, and you're just worried about the end result with you. But
Yeah.
that, I don't know, it just, something in that message, and I don't exactly know what kind of pinpointed it, but it kind of changed my mindset a little bit
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yeah, and so he came home to me, and I remember I was, like, taking a nap or something or whatever, and he came home and he was like, "I love you so much," and I was like, "I love you too," and he was like, I want to marry you, which is the first time that had ever been mentioned in our entire relationship. Year and a half. We had never, like, I'm not lying when I say we had never discussed marriage,
Yeah.
like ever. And so I was like, whoa, like this is just so random. And I was like, okay, like I want to marry you too. And he was like, okay, so will you get a prenup? And I was like, no, like I don't believe in divorce, even though I had been divorced already. Like I don't believe in it. Like in my next marriage, like the only way out is death. Like I'm not doing all of that again. Like I don't condone divorce. Do I think it's necessary sometimes? Sure, but like I don't condone it. And so like he was like, okay, and then we just decided to talk to our pastor at the church that we were attending at the time and just kind of like talk through it. And the pastor was booked out for like a month and a half, 2 months. He was like, yeah, I'm sorry. He's like, I couldn't see you until like 6 weeks from now. We're like, okay. And then he recommended a man named Tim. And we were able to get into him that next week.
Yeah.
And we just started talking to him. We kind of shared everything that we just kind of shared with you guys. And the first thing that he said to us when we had like shared our story was like, so you guys are playing house? And we were like,
First off, too,
Yeah.
like stepping into his office was like stepping into the Lord's office. Like it was, I can't explain the power that was in that room.
the Holy Spirit, like
The
was
Holy
in that
Spirit
room,
was in that room.
for sure.
You know, he was speaking directly, clearly, very convicted.
Yeah.
And he had my attention, and it was the most powerful conversation that I've been in
Yeah.
to this day, for sure.
He basically gave the analogy, and I'll link. I have the link
Yeah.
to that sermon, but I will link that sermon in the show notes. But he basically gave the analogy of marriage being like a house, and there's a front door, and there's a swing on the porch, and you walk in the front door, and there's also a back door, but you want to break up that back door. Like the only way in that house is through the front door. He did it much better than I just
Yeah.
said. But when he said that, like I just started like weeping. I was sobbing in his office, and it was so powerful. And he challenged us in that first meeting with him to stop sleeping together. He was like, he's like, if you want to be serious about this, if you want God into your relationship, you're going to stop sleeping together. Problem is we already like lived together, and so it was like, what does that look like? Am I going to move out? Like it's his house, so he's not moving out, and like his kids, like he gets them on the weekends, so like it's me, like I would have to be the one to move out, and like where am I going to go? And I remember that day, like we went to Yard House after church, and we were just like, it was like we got hit by a ton of bricks. We were
Yeah.
like, what do we even do?
Yeah.
And so I moved out of our room because one of the kids, whenever he came over, like he slept on the couch anyways, like he barely used his room. And so like we had a talk with the kids at like a level that, you know, was good for kids. They were like 14 and 11 at the time. And so we explained to them what was going on, and I like moved into one of the kids' rooms and was sleeping in there. Yeah. And we stopped having sex for that time,
Yeah.
for that whole time. And every week for 6 weeks, we saw Tim. We went to his office every single Sunday and talked to him. And he really mentored us, and he like encouraged us, and he pushed us and challenged us. And he was so amazing for our relationship. Like literally, he was a godsend. He was a catalyst for the relationship that we have now, because I'm not quite sure, like I can't even imagine, thanks. I can't even imagine like what our relationship would look like
Yeah.
if we had never met Tim.
No, I mean, that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
Things wouldn't be the same, I don't think.
No,
No.
not even a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, 3 weeks into, were you going to say something?
No, I was just gonna say, like, I mean, cold turkey, no sex,
Yeah.
that's brutal. Like that is brutal.
Yeah.
I can only speak for men. I mean, I'm sure you guys have still, handled it a different way. But it was pretty brutal. It was really brutal, you know? But it was another pivotal point in our relationship because we, like, again, it's like you took the drug away. You took the bottle away. You took the hit away. And so all the things that were underlying or were questionable, that were masked by sex, came right to the surface. And I mean, it shot up for both of us. It came right up to the top. And it was brutal because there was a lot of things that weren't exciting, and we couldn't cover it up. And so we had to deal with it. So we had to dig in, and we had to work on our relationship.
Yeah.
Actually
and
do
and
some,
ourselves.
yeah,
And
and ourselves too.
individually.
Yeah. So,
Because I would say for the first 3 weeks, it was like, okay, like this is uncomfortable, but like we're okay. And then I would say week 3 was like the turning point of like during the celibacy that like we were like, we're not too sure about us anymore. Like, I remember I started getting really insecure, and I remember asking him, like, do you still love me? Like, do you still want me? Like, are you still attracted to me? Like, I was that person. Like, the insecurities, the anxious attachment came out, and I was like, whoa.
yeah.
Like, I don't do this.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you still want me? Like, I needed that reassurance because I had been reassured through sex. Like, it was crazy. And so that got taken away. And
Well, and not to be too detailed, but that's like sex. There was a lot of sex.
yeah,
So
there was a lot.
there was a lot less talking, a lot less intimacy with conversation, and it was, let's hang out, and and we were drinking too,
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
For sure. So tough times, but something that Tim did say was like, there are going to be times in your life where the sex is going to be minimal or non-existent. I'm not saying that's healthy. I'm not saying, whatever, that it's excusable, but there are some periods in life where that happens, like when you have a new baby, or like there's just other like life circumstances where like it's just not going to happen, like life
Yeah.
is stressful, or there's an emotional disconnect, or there's maybe work takes you away, or like whatever it is, there's going to be different situations that will require less physical intimacy. And so it really like prepared us and teed us up for success to be able to handle those seasons in our marriage. And that way we weren't like, we were able to fall back on the foundation of our friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. 100%.
And I'm so thankful for that friendship, but
Yeah.
we would not have had that had we not stopped with the physical intimacy. And so
Yeah. And
it was a game changer.
100%. 100%. Because I mean, look, at the end of the day, I don't care how great sex is and how pretty or beautiful your significant other is. There's going to be a time where you're going to need more than that. You're going to need more
Yeah.
depth in your relationship.
You're gonna need some emotional
And-
maturity.
And if you can't if you don't have a foundation and you can't go deep with the person you're in with, that's gonna be a problem.
Like, what do you actually have?
Yeah, that's gonna be a problem.
Like, physical intimacy will only carry you so far.
Yeah.
And then it's like, then what?
And honestly, I think I think it sounds crazy, and this could, I mean, people could debate about this all day long. Like, should you have sex before you move in with somebody?
Test drive.
Should you, yeah, and you got people say, well, why would you ever move in with somebody that you haven't had sex with? How do you know if it's going to be good, right? Like, I mean, you've heard that before. Like, there's so many different ways you can argue with it. But what I feel, and now being like through that, it just, like, it prepares you to build a strong foundation. Because if you can build a strong foundation before you move in with somebody, minus the sex is the icing on the cake, and you will always have that strong foundation. Like, you will always have that. And that's not how we started. We had to take steps back.
Backtrack, yeah.
But we had to, put that work in, and it was huge. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then after 6 weeks of what we now see was premarital counseling.
Yeah.
That was
Right.
not the intention. Like, we weren't planning on getting married. We had no plans, but other than that one comment that he made about, like, I want to marry you, when he came back from that men's breakfast, like, there was no plan, there was no mention, there was nothing about getting married. And that 6th week with Tim, we go into his office on Sunday, and we're sitting there, and he's just chatting with us, and, like, it's just casual and, like, whatever, and we're not even really, I don't even think we were really talking about much anymore.
No.
And he was like, he stops and he's like, what are you guys doing? And I remember, like, we look at each other, we're like, what do you mean? Like, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? And he was like, why aren't you guys married? Like, you guys should get married. And we're like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, I think now we're prepared. Like,
Yeah.
and he was like,
How's
how's
tomorrow?
tomorrow? And we were like, oh, tomorrow's a Monday. I have work. But sure. I think so. And I remember I like opened my phone calendar, and I was like, I really have always wanted to get married in October. Like, could we push it a few days? But I was like, but he really wants us to get married now. Like, okay. And so we, like, went home, and we decided to get married the next day.
Yeah.
No dress, no tux, no venue, no nothing. My family lived in Florida at the time now. Like, at that time, like, they live in Florida. And
Yeah.
so we went and told your parents and your kids, and
Yeah.
then we told some close friends, and we had to tell our bosses that, like, hey, we need to come in late tomorrow because we have to go to the courthouse to get a marriage license. And so we did that. We went to go get a marriage license bright and early on Monday morning, and took care of that. And then we both went to work. We're like, hey, love you, bye. Like, have a good day at work. And we went to work and didn't tell a soul. And then after work, we rushed home. I, like, hurried up and, like, touched up my makeup, and I wore purple lipstick, which was the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. And like, who wears purple lipstick on their wedding day? Honestly. And we had his kids with us and his parents. We were trying to FaceTime my parents, but it wasn't working, like, whatever. And so we got married in this little, like, room of the church, and it was really sweet. It was really intimate.
And Tim
officiated. Yeah, there were no rings. There was nothing. Like, I had no wedding dress, no rings, no nothing. Like, we just got married.
Yep.
And then we went back to the restaurant that we met at
Yeah.
and had our little, like, wedding dinner there with the kids and with the family.
Yeah.
But that's our story. I don't know. I really love our story.
I do
I
too.
think it's great and it makes me happy. We've really put in a lot of work,
Yeah.
even post wedding. You know, we are 10 years plus into this relationship now,
Yeah.
which is crazy that like
It's
we are
nuts.
already 10 years into this relationship. And we've done a lot of work individually and as a couple. And we
Still.
continue to
Yeah.
do so. Like there's still work to be done.
Like, there's work to be done almost every day. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Just
it's
about.
constant. And if you're not doing work daily in your relationship, you probably got to work a little harder, because it's a lot of work.
That's a word right there.
It is. I'm just saying. I
I know,
mean,
but that's a nugget right there for sure.
because at the end of the day, if you put your head down for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months goes by, and you pick your head up and you're looking at a different person in front of you and they've already checked out, it might be too late. So you can't let that happen, you know? And I mean, we constantly are communicating, and, you know, we still to this day are working on things, you know, like when somebody's feeling a certain way, like telling that person and not holding it in, you know, and thank God we can read each other pretty well now. So we know when something's not right, and we sit down and talk about it. But the work never ends.
Yeah.
It never ends.
Ever.
Ever.
Yeah, so that's our story. And I don't know, while he was talking, I just feel it like very strongly that our story is for somebody that is going to listen to this. And I hope that story, our story, really encourages you. I hope that it helps you. I hope that it comforts you if you are in that situation or a similar situation, and you feel alone, or you feel like you don't know what to do. You know, when you put God in it, like when you put God
Center.
you're going to do fine. You're going to do very well. That's just been our experience. Are we perfect at that? No. But when we finally put our flesh to the side, we shelved our flesh to pursue God's best for our relationship, even though it was fast-tracked. You know, I do believe that God fast-tracks people in relationships. He will for some. And he fast-tracked our relationship. He really did. And I just think that our story is for somebody out there, and I'm excited for this to hopefully help you or somebody you know. And
Absolutely.
if it does, you know, share this episode with somebody, like the episode, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. That would mean the world, because we want to try to help as many people as possible to feel less alone, feel encouraged, and just push them closer to God, and just help them be better.
And look, I'm hoping that this is not my last time on
and
basically
done,
a
brother.
therapist. Yeah. So
One and done. No, I'm just
if
kidding.
there's other things you want to hear about our relationship or
Yeah.
anything, throw it in the comments, and
Yeah.
we'll write those down, and maybe I can jump back on here
You
at
can
a later
email
date.
me too. I think it's basically a therapist podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely certain. It's either basically a therapist at gmail.com or basically a therapist podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah.
.com. I will let you know. I'll put it in the show notes as well. But yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm proud of us.
High five.
Way to put in the work.
First one. Off the cuff.
Done.
Yeah.
Bye.
Beat that.